In today's video, we're going to talk about the 5 pillars of retirement. This is what we feel is a standard of excellence for everyone that's planning retirement. We feel that everyone needs these 5 things in place, and this is actually the process that we use with our clients here at Peak Retirement Planning to make sure they're living that successful retirement. And so the first pillar that we're going to talk about is tax planning. When it comes to tax planning, it's all about how do we pay the least amount of taxes during your lifetime. And during this pillar, we're looking at things like using advanced tax softwares and calculators to decide what should we do today that will set us up better as time goes on. And our goal is how do we pay the least amount of taxes over our lifetime, which means we may pay more taxes today to get a better savings over time. So that's what we'd look for in that tax planning pillar. We'd also look at doing some Roth conversion planning, which is typically very popular today, knowing that tax rates are lower today and set to go up. And so those are things that we'd be looking at in that tax planning pillar to make sure you're paying the least amount of taxes. We're also doing a lot of RMD planning. So what are RMDs? That's the required minimum distribution. So when you turn 73, unless you were born in 1960 or after, then that is actually 75 when your RMD age is. And that's when you'll have to start taking money out from those investment accounts, those tax deferred investments, the 401k, the IRA that you've been saving into all those years. And what happens when you take out money from those? Well, you've got to pay taxes. And so with that RMD, I always joke with people, but that's when the government forces you to take out money, and it's typically not a good thing if they're going to force you to take out money. So we want to make sure we plan for that. So part of our process is planning for RMDs. And so how do we do that? It's through smart tax planning to find ways now that we can reduce that RMD in the future so we can have more control over the amount of money that we pull out by having investments in different buckets, different tax buckets, so that we can take and choose which one we want to take out from. So those are the main things we look at in the tax planning pillar. Another big one is charitable planning. So if that's an intent of yours, you want to make sure you look at all the different strategies out there to get tax savings there. When it comes to charitable planning, we always recommend you want to do it for the goodness of your heart. Don't do it for the tax benefit. Do it because you want to do it. But if you're going to do it, make sure you get the tax benefit is how it's best explained. So there's a lot of advanced tax planning strategies that you can be looking at. Qualified charitable distributions, donor advised funds, charitable remainder trusts. Just make sure you're looking to see what all your opportunities are so you're being smart when you're planning for that pillar there. So that is what we would encompass as the tax planning pillar. And then the next pillar that we typically look at with our clients is what we call the investment planning pillar. Now, when we see people come to us for the first time, we typically see that they're taking on way too much risk than they need to. Typically, they've been investing the same way that they have over the last 30 years, and so we always explain to them what got you here may not get you there. And so we may need to change the way we invest, and we think of it as that mountain analogy. All your life you've been climbing and thinking grow, 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 which is great. But now you're in a time where you're coming down the mountain. It's now thinking protect, protect, protect. How do we preserve this nest egg that we've accumulated and saved for over all these years? And so that's what we look at in the investment planning pillar. We look at professional investment management. That's something we would advise most people should look to get guidance on. Making sure your plan is structured in the right type of investments. Making sure you've got enough protection in those investments, seeking enough growth to keep up with inflation and rising healthcare costs is some of the things we look at there. And then also just eliminating unnecessary fees. So there's too many times that I've seen in this industry where, financial planners or just DIY investors will be using different types of investments that have added costs that there may not be a lot of added benefit there, in my opinion. So be aware for mutual funds, not to say mutual funds are bad, but only half of mutual funds outperform the market. And so the cost you're paying for that, and if you're paying an advisor on top of that, it may not be worth it, right? You may be paying more than what value you're getting. And so we would encourage you to make sure you're doing an audit of what you're investing in, and are you getting the best value for what you pay or you're paying there. So that would be our advice there for the investment planning pillar for you there. So the next pillar is the income planning pillar. And this is the one where you no longer have a job anymore now that you're retired. Where's the money going to come from? How are we going to now bridge the gap? So I think about it like this. You have this high income while you're working, and that continues on until you stop, and then it falls off. And so now we have to still bridge a gap for the rest of our life. And we all know that most people are going to get Social Security, and that's going to cover about half of your income. But where are you going to get the other half? Well, typically that's going to come from the investments that we just talked about and the investment planning pillar. So we need to make sure that those investments are structured the right way to now get us income. Remember how I said what got us here isn't going to get us there. We have a different goal behind our investments now, and we need to make sure that we can bridge that gap moving forward. And along with this income planning pillar is not only structuring the investments the right way, but as we mentioned with Social Security is, when should we take it? And people will joke around that it depends, right? We don't know when the true time to take it is. But you can be very strategic in deciding when to take Social Security. And in my opinion, that can lead to thousands more dollars if you make the right decision there over time. So we want to be very, very careful with when we take Social Security, not only by picking the best time, but also looking at what is the tax impact of taking Social Security. So our first pillar is tax planning, but tax planning really plays a part in every single one of these pillars because, in my opinion, tax is going to be the biggest expense in your retirement. So, and it affects everything. Every decision we need to make sure we're planning for that. One thing that really bothers me, to go on a quick rant here, is when financial planners say, oh, I'm not a CPA, I can't help you with taxes. Well, then you go to your CPA and your CPA goes, well, I'm only here to file your taxes. I'm not here to help you do tax planning. And so we would advise you, make sure you're working with someone who's looking at the full picture, that's looking at tax planning at every area of your financial plan. If someone's telling you they're not doing it, you probably want to run away. And if someone is telling you they're doing it, make sure it's getting done. We've seen a lot of firms out there that talk a good game and say, yeah, we do that, but they haven't done anything for the last 5 years. So make sure you're actually getting the things done that you need done correctly, and it's worked out through your entire plan. So those are the big things we look for in the income planning. And if you can plan for taxes correctly in this income planning, you can have a lot more money in your pocket. I mean, just by the way you take out from your investments can tremendously impact your tax bill through that retirement. Could impact Medicare premiums, could impact Social Security tax, capital gains. So in retirement, how we take out our money is so, so, so important. I always phrase it like this. It's not how much you take, it's how much you keep. Okay? You could take out $100,000, but if you're having to pay $20,000 in taxes, we only have $80,000 to go live that retirement we want to. Whereas if we can take out $100,000 and maybe we can keep $90,000 or $95,000, or maybe we're able to live that tax-free retirement that we're able to do with many of our clients, well, now maybe you're not paying any federal taxes. So that's something important to think of as well. The next pillar that we're going to talk about is the healthcare planning pillar here. And so with healthcare planning, we like to think of this as Medicare planning first and foremost, of when should we take Medicare? Well, obviously 65, unless you're still working, then you may be able to delay it a little longer. And so with Medicare, there's a lot of decisions to be made on that. Part A, most people get, they've paid into it all their life. It's technically free at this point. Most people are going to have that. Most people are also going to have Part B. That's going to be coming at an additional cost. And so you need to understand that additional cost is based on your income. So that's part of the planning that we'd be looking at, right? And then also understand what that Medicare is. Most people want to get a supplemental plan on top of A and B so that they can be covered if an emergency happens. So we would encourage you to work with a Medicare planning specialist. So here at our firm, we actually have a specialist that helps our clients with those decisions. And so make sure you're working with someone you trust there so that they can help you make the right decision. Make sure they're shopping around, making sure they're looking at what prescriptions, what's your health history, to allow them to shop out all the hundreds of plans out there to help you get to that best decision there. So that would be part of that Medicare planning that you want to make sure you're looking at. The next part of the healthcare planning pillar is the long-term care. So long-term care is obviously a big, big problem that we're seeing with retirees today. And the reason why is because supply and demand. Older generation, 10,000 people are turning 65 every day. That's happened for the last 10 years and it's expected to happen for 10 more. What does that tell us? Well, there's more people that need it, which means cost obviously has to go up. That's just how simple economics work. And so that's why we're seeing healthcare costs that go up so much over time. I mean, if you just look at Medicare premiums have gone up about 7% on average over time. That is way more than inflation. And so a lot of people are expecting healthcare costs to even go up higher throughout a retiree's retirement. So we need to make sure we're planning for that, is basically what I'm getting at. We don't want to sit there and make you worry. but we want to make sure we have a plan so if or when it does happen, we can best situate and plan for that. And so that's part of that long-term care, is deciding what should we do there. How should we plan for this? Should we go the long-term care insurance route? Should we look at life insurance? Should we look at getting a trust? There's a ton of different opportunities with long-term care planning. Our advice to you is make sure you explore with your specific situation to see what's best. We've got clients that do all different types of long-term care planning, right? And so you want to make sure you're looking at that. As far as long-term care planning goes, we get a lot of questions about long-term care insurance, so I'll go ahead and cover that real quick here. It's gotten very costly over the years, and so with a lot of our clients right now, we're not necessarily using that for a lot of our clients right now because we just don't feel like it can add as much value. So don't take that as advice. It can still be good for the right person, but that's just our belief here at Peak Retirement Planning, is that, man, it's really costly, but long-term care is also costly. So if we're not going to do the insurance, we got to have a plan in some way. And we feel there's many other strategies to look at as well that can fit people's plans. So just be very aware of that. And then the last thing with the healthcare planning, which I've already mentioned, but it's just preparing for the out-of-pocket healthcare expenses that you're going to be seeing beyond Medicare, beyond long-term care, that are just going to come up. And so we need to make sure that our investments are structured in the right way to be able to handle that, especially with the rising costs, like I mentioned earlier. And so the last pillar here that we want to discuss is the estate planning pillar. Last but not least. And so when we think of the estate planning pillar, I like to think of making sure you have your documents in place. So this is the pillar that everyone says they want and need, but most people don't have it. And there's a stat out there that says that 70% of retirees die without an estate plan in place. And so our goal is to change that, to make sure that you're actually getting what you need there and planning before it's too late. And so like I mentioned, estate planning documents is where it's all starting, making sure you've got a power of attorney in place, making sure you've got a will, making sure you've got power of attorney for healthcare, but also financial, making sure you've got a living will, making sure you've got the right beneficiaries on all your accounts. There's a lot of different things you need in place there. And so we would recommend you work with an estate planning attorney to get all of that set. And so be very careful when working with an estate planning attorney. There's great estate planning attorneys out there, just like there's great financial planners out there, just like there's great CPAs out there, there's great professionals out there. But obviously you just have to be careful of who you're working with, making sure they're doing the right thing for you. We've had a client where they went to see an estate planning attorney, and they offered him, say, you need to do this big old trust, and it's going to cost you about $7,000. And, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that trust. The problem was it just didn't necessarily fit their situation. It's not what they needed. They would have been paying for something they didn't need. And so just to understand that stuff's out there. That client specifically met with our attorney. They walked out of the door paying $750. And that's all they needed, and that's all they needed to have their plan set up the way they needed to. So just be very careful there, but do understand that everyone needs estate planning documents of some sort. Maybe it's just basic documents, but anyone 18 and up, we believe, needs estate planning in place. So if you've dealt with a loved one who has passed away, you know the severity and you know the importance of having this well structured. Yes, you can do this on your own. No one's stopping you from doing that, but I would highly advise you against it. Even myself, I have a very strong education in estate planning. Part of the certified financial planning designation involves reading a big old book on estate planning, but I would still not draft documents by myself, right? I'm going to have an attorney do that because when that time comes, paying the few extra dollars is going to be well worth it to get exactly what you need there. So that's the importance there. The other important thing with estate planning is if you're married, providing for that survivor. So we call that survivor planning. And so with survivor planning, making sure that your spouse is paying the least amount of taxes is something we'll talk about next, but also making sure that their income streams are still going to be adequate, making sure they've got enough money and not going to run out of money, because there's something called the widow's penalty when one spouse passes, and that's where you could lose one of the Social Securities, and then also you go from married filing jointly taxes to single tax rates. And there's obviously a big difference between those two. And so not only do you have a loss of income, but you're paying more taxes, which means there's less money in your pocket to be able to live the retirement that you're planning for. So we have to plan in advance for that before it's too late, is ultimately, our goal there is what we try to encourage clients to do. So that's one of the things we look at with survivor planning, but also This is a big one. We get a lot of people that work with us. Maybe one of the spouses is really good with financial planning. They've done it on their own all these years, but they've chosen to trust our team because if something happens to them, they don't feel like their spouse is equally as prepared if something happens. And so that's why we want to make sure that you're working with a trusted guide to help with that transition if that ever happens. It's going to happen at some point. Females typically live longer than males, so as you're doing your planning, just keep those things in mind of how do we want to plan here. So that's something that's extremely important with the people we work with. And the last part of estate planning that is my favorite, and again, I'll bring us home with what got us here, and that's tax planning. And that's the foundation of our firm. That's the thing that, like I mentioned earlier, is the most important thing. And so making sure you're able to reduce taxes to beneficiaries when you pass away. Again, whether that's your spouse, as I mentioned earlier, the widow's penalty, and going from married, filing jointly to single. Prepare for that now by doing tax planning strategies. And also, if you want to leave money to your kids, for example, how are you going to do that in the most efficient way? Your kids now have to take your money out of your IRA over 10 years is the new ruling on that. And so that's going to cause them to pay a significant amount of taxes in most cases if you have more saved up in that IRA if you've been a diligent saver. So we need to be preparing for that now so they're not having to pay more in taxes if that's your goal. Or maybe your goal is to leave money to charities. And if that's your goal, then you've got a few options. You can start looking at giving money more now, or you could look to give more when you pass away. And if you do that, you want to really make sure you're planning to see what opportunities you have to do it most efficiently. There's a lot of different charitable strategies you can do to make that most efficient in a life if that's your goal. So those are the 5 pillars summed up for you. Again, we feel that this is the standard of retirement planning. This is what we've built our firm around. We feel that this is, if you're looking for an advisor, they need to be doing this type of planning. And so our advice is always, work with someone. If it's not us, work with someone who can help you with these 5 pillars here. And if you are looking for particular guidance on these 5 pillars, you can actually apply to talk to one of our advisors on our team, and we will analyze your situation here and just look at your current situation to see which of these areas are you going to need more guidance on. And so that's something we'd be glad to help all of you avid YouTube viewers here to make sure you're in a better place there. So go ahead and look in the description below and you can do that. And here's some other videos here that you can click on to get a better feel of our 5-pillar approach to make sure that you're getting detailed out on all these different areas. So enjoy the rest of your day and hope you enjoyed the video today.